Hey there and welcome. Gosh, let me get a little sip. Should have had that before the camera went on. Sorry about that. Well, welcome to our Thursday session. We have an interesting one for you today. This is really the part two to my LinkedIn lecture. Let me just go ahead and share my screen at the same time. Let's see. There we go. LinkedIn is incredibly important in positioning ourselves and our value in our career. So many people go, oh, have to be on LinkedIn, have to be on LinkedIn. And then we go to LinkedIn, we build out this great story about ourselves. And you know what? Most of us here, crickets. It's like, well, I think they said I needed to be here, but I'm here. And then we're waiting to be struck by lightning. Most of that is you built a great maybe sales brochure. That's what I think you really need to do. How do you take this single page telling of the essence and value of your career? That's really my view of the resume. How do you bring that over to LinkedIn and transform it into a full out three-dimensional sales brochure about you? And then how do you get that sales brochure out of that dusty rack over in the corner and get it in front of people? That's the career evolution. We're going to use social media marketing to accomplish it. Now, another way to think about this is I have a great LinkedIn profile. Now what? and that's what most people get stuck. They get stuck in the mud going, well, I don't know what to do. I can't get more folks. Another way to think of it is how do you take control of your career story and how do you implant that career story in other people's minds so they really think of you and your value the same way you think of you and your value. In case you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker. Resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So my gosh, if your brand value is not at the right level, perception-wise, across your resume, across your LinkedIn profile, I think you know where you can find me. By the way, all of my client packages are over on my website, selfrecruiter.com, right under the services tab. So you can take a look there. Rest of my background is, 7 or 8 years on a desk as a traditional headhunter. Typical recruiter, have to go into the competitor company, lure out that superstar, shepherd them through the whole dating process, because it really is a dating process, and get to the very end. Of course, besides doing that for individual clients, and by the way, I did three different disciplines on a desk as a recruiter. 2 of those were as national market. Simply means I really never met anyone, never met a hiring manager, never met an individual candidate personally, because I worked national market, every single thing over the phone. And you know what? Lots of placements, because it all happens in conversation, no matter what that conversation looks like. Today, it's probably more likely to be a Zoom than just a regular phone call, but you get the idea. Of course, I did a local market Manhattan niche after that, where suddenly I had to get out and meet everyone. My boss was like, get out and meet people, get out and meet people. I'm like, but why? I'm so good over the phone. Of course, getting in front of people and having to do the same kind of thing you've perfected over the phone teaches you something else that you really have to uncover. And that is, it's incredibly difficult for people to say no to you. Now, you may not think so, but it's incredibly difficult for them to say no to you in person. I could see a dramatic shift suddenly being in person. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like taking candy from a baby if I'm right in front of you. Doesn't mean I really like being in front of them, any more than anybody else, because regardless of what you see here, I'm actually shy and introverted, which usually makes people burst out laughing because they just can't imagine it. Of course, ended up being VP over all 100 offices before moving out to do what I do now. And for the last 10 years, I work directly with clients. I help them elevate their brand and their value across their resume, across their LinkedIn, help them through all of those tricky processes in job search where they need a little bit extra coaching, or even on the negotiating end on the compensation packages. Of course, I still work with folks that are in the middle of their career and like a little help navigating the internal politics, all of that. Let's move a little bit ahead here. A few resources before we jump in today that'll help you over my LinkedIn. You can get to a number of my articles, how to not waste your time. That's the only resource you have is don't waste that time. Understand how you have to utilize your time. Understand how to supercharge your job search so you're not just sitting back hitting those darn buttons, submit, until we're so submissive. It's like a Friday night waiting for that phone to ring. Oh, it's going to ring. It's going to ring. Mm-hmm. When it does, it'll be a telemarketer. Of course, we also have to learn how to not let that resume become resume roadkill. This little piece is about 3 minutes. We're going to play it for you. Let's make sure my volume's on. And hang on one second here. We're going to get this right up. Let's get that volume at the right level. There we go. Come back in 3 minutes.
I'm John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about using LinkedIn and getting the best out of social media marketing. Your business is built on perception. Perception of the products or the services or of your reputation. Business today is judged by web presence, not just a business's website. In our traditional work life, we didn't hesitate to network with the right people when an opportunity arose. That chance to meet the right people that could help our career. But as a small business owner, sometimes it's all you. It becomes easy for us to prioritize networking away. Oh, not today. Until it's never on today's list. We have so many other hats to wear if we are to reach our dreams. And those other hats are certainly more important. It's important for every small business person to network, to open doors that you may not have even imagined yet. You need to be reaching and communicating with current and potentially new customers or clients. You need to be out there contributing to the discussion about you. And with focus, it takes much less time than you really think to be effective. But you do have to take control. You have to develop your LinkedIn profile into a 3-dimensional sales brochure, all about you, that naturally drives the reader to a singular conclusion. If I work with, hire, or buy from this person, it's the best business decision I'll make today. Then make use of social media marketing tools built into LinkedIn to be sowing your value across the network in updates and postings and other shares that influence the perception of you. Well, there's much more to share as we're just getting started. Now imagine that you have this great communication platform. By the way, that's your great LinkedIn profile that positions both you and your business professionally and effectively. And think about the effects of using and implementing a sharing on a schedule or editorial calendar to simplify your messaging. That's a powerful voice to be heard that affects perception. What would you want others to be thinking of when they are thinking of you? That's the important question.
Well, gosh, let's move ahead there. That's an interesting piece. You may have been distracted by the word business, your business. Well, that's a piece I put together just a few years ago for Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. But, if you replace that phrase or the words business or small business with your career brand, it's exactly the same thing. Because I hope it's not a surprise to you, you have a career brand that you have to manage forevermore. That's your job from this point forward. And so by thinking of yourself as this business, thinking about ways to use the tools in LinkedIn to elevate that brand and the perception of your brand, that becomes a game changer. Of course, this lecture and really all of the lectures, it's about one thing. How is it that you're going to become this self-recruiter, this one great recruiter that only looks after one amazing individual candidate, which of course is you? And besides that, you have to be the strategist, the cheerleader. You're going to have to pick yourself up by the bootstraps when necessary. All the things besides being the actual person of focus. Of course, becoming the self-recruiter is largely about expanding and working your network in a very different way. That's the LinkedIn side. So make sure you do watch my LinkedIn video. If you'd like easy access to it, it's right on my homepage, selfrecruiter.com. Halfway down the page, you can see me large, the slides large, make me large, slides big, whatever you like. Really use it as a start and stop tutorial, step by step, as you refine and build out, improve your own LinkedIn profile. The other piece of being a self-recruiter, of course, is we have to keep one eye on that toughest competitor imaginable. You know those 4 or 5 or 6 people that if you saw they were going for the job, oh, that person, oh, forget it. That person. We can beat those people so easily, but you cannot beat them if you stick your head in the sand. If you stick your head in the sand, pretend they do not exist, they will beat you every single time because they're a little sparkly, a little shiny. You know what they are? They're perfect. Have you met one? I don't think I've met one. You know, I strive to be perfect. I am not perfect either. No one is perfect because we're human beings. The state of a human being is defective in nature. We're all unique and different in so many ways. So this is about making sure you're perceived at your very best. And yes, let's hide a few of those things we need to hide away in the background. Now, the secrets to refreshing your career story, yes, we have to flesh out and understand our story across our resume, across our LinkedIn profile. We have to improve it in those areas. But what it really requires after that is a digital self-marketing campaign, a digital marketing campaign that you can operate and activate with about 2 minutes of time per day. So I know every single job seeker has 2 minutes. You can spare 2 minutes or get up 2 minutes earlier, go to sleep 2 minutes later. You have time for 2 minutes out of your day. And this really will help to brand your career. It'll also help to lift the brilliance when other people look at you and the sparkliness and the shininess. This is really part of how you take control of the discussion, part of how you create engagement, which is always a lot closer to this type of engagement than just the mechanical piece. Now, in terms of social media, now we're going to primarily talk about LinkedIn today, but you have to think about all platforms. And I think most job seekers should likely be using 2, 3, maybe even 4 platforms for career. Oh, you may use a whole host of other platforms for your personal communications fund, whatever that might be. But for our career, we probably can't effectively use more than 2, 3, or 4 of them and manage it properly. So which ones are you going to use? Well, absolutely. Number one, if you'd like to be hired, it doesn't matter. But if you'd like to be hired, you have to be on LinkedIn. Now, I have no extra special love for LinkedIn over anything else that's out there. It's a great tool. Don't mishear that. But if you're not on LinkedIn, it's so evolved now. If you're not on LinkedIn, I'm holding your resume and I go, oh, let me look. I can't find you. Are you even is this resume even real? Unless we exist in the virtual world professionally these days, we do not exist. That casts doubt on the resume. So you have to build out that story. To me, LinkedIn is the place you build out your professional career story, a cultivated, curated garden of your story where you quite literally control every single word. That's your professional shingle out on the world for people to see. Don't understand why that ever might be private and why you shouldn't be proud of it. Build it out and give yourself permission to get a little bit past our humility and those kinds of things. And you earned it. Let's put it out there. What else should we be using? I hope you're not eating at this moment, or if you are, you better swallow it really quickly. Twitter. I usually almost upchuck every time I say it. I get it. I'm not talking about those 157 tweets over the weekend type use of Twitter. What I mean here is that if you'd like to be hired, you also need to be on Twitter. Now, you could be hired without being on Twitter, but I think you'd like your odds of being hired for the jobs that you really want to skyrocket. And you're going to need to be on Twitter as part of allowing yourself to be found. Also as part of a technique where you let people look over your shoulder to see what you're reading, doing, sharing, attending. What's drawing your interest in your field? I'd like to hire someone that is living and breathing their profession, employed or not, doesn't matter. Do you have passion for your profession? I expect you to be living and breathing your profession, paid or not. By the way, this is volunteering here today. There's no payment here. I have lots of passion. Passion does not require payment, even though some of paying our bills requires payment. That's a different issue. So Twitter is very important. The other reason why I believe Twitter is so important is a large percentage of companies have simply stopped posting jobs. Yeah, you heard me right. They've stopped posting jobs because they've already connected the dots in their own brain. You know, when they post a good job, you know what they get? 1,000, 2,000 resumes at the minimum. Don't mishear that one either. I didn't say 1,000, 2,000 qualified individuals. Oh, 90, 95% of these people are not right. But they see this great job and they go, you have that job. Oh, well, you would definitely have a job for me around that. Let me send my resume in. And they hope to go, oh, we need one of you too. And that ends up 90, 95% of them not being right. It's like snow blindness, resume blindness. How many of these can I see? And I can't tell them apart. That's what happens. So companies that already connected the dots, they figured out that they can go to Twitter, just like I can. You give me any industry, any position, any level, give me a few minutes to think about it. I can come up with 4, 5, or 6 words to search on Twitter. Oh, not to find someone capable. Oh, dime a dozen. It's like, cat hair in my mouth. Get that out of there. They're not really looking for the capable, qualified. Oh, yes, at a minimum. They're looking for the person that's that as a foundation and then is somehow exceptional. So where are these superstars, the exceptional people? I can produce 4, 5, or 6 of these people from just a handful of words. And you might go, oh, really? How do you do that? Well, promote yourself up to being a little bit of a Sherlock Holmes, a little bit of a detective, work backwards and imagine whatever your field is, doesn't matter what it is, whatever your field is, whatever the role is. You know, there's people that are the interchangeable, capable, qualified. Oh, not those people. The exceptional. Look at those exceptional people. Oh, they're very unique. The exceptional person does certain things, or they're not exceptional. An exceptional person in their field would have already shared a best practices technical white paper on their field. Don't be scared away by that big phrase. You can simply Google it, best practices technical white paper. It'll come right up. All that is somebody really already thought of the very best way and the best practices to do your job. And they wrote it all out. Now, by the way, you don't have to write this. You could, but you don't have to write this. Just go find any best practices technical white paper on your field. And then you share that with a link with a few words of comment. And by the way, your few words of comment could go wildly in all directions. It could be, what a great take on best practices for exactly what I do with a link. Not sure I agree with best practices for exactly what I do with a link. Could not disagree more with best practices for exactly what I do with a link. Good, bad, or ugly doesn't matter. You have to have some opinion or nothing sticks to you. If you're sharing without those 4, 5, 6 words of opinion, there's no stickiness. You're a random sharer interrupting people's days. But the moment they see your name on LinkedIn, they see your picture on LinkedIn, they see that wonderful headline encapsulating your value. So I hope it's not just your current or last employer and title. It could be so much more. And they always see this 4, 5, 6 words of your opinion begins to etch into their brain. What other platforms should we use? I don't know. There's a lot of them. The biggest thing is don't become distracted by them. There's probably this many new platforms every single day. Keep it down to something manageable. Now, if you're in creative, as an example, I don't know how you don't use Instagram as part of your overall mix of how you present yourself. I use Instagram, and you might say I'm not in creative, although I am creative, and reinventing people's brands is creative activity. But what do I use Instagram for? Well, go back to why people get hired, or why people hire you for a service like they may do for me. How you get hired really comes down to 2 issues. Only 2 issues. This is assuming you're capable or qualified. I would never even consider someone that was not capable or qualified. So that is not a deciding factor. You think it is. It's not even on my radar. I wouldn't even have the conversation with you if I didn't believe that existed. Why I hire you is, why are you interesting? What makes you tick? What drives you? So number 1 above everything else is chemistry. Chemistry above all other things, if I believe you're capable and qualified. And confidence in you and your abilities and what you might bring to me. Even if I don't quite know what you'll bring to me, I can imagine better things from you. Yeah, confidence in you is number 2. That's, of course, assuming they believe we're capable, qualified. So my Instagram, where does it fit into my picture? Now, I think my Instagram is so important. I put it as a drop-down menu right on my website, selfrecruiter.com, by the way. something in a drop-down menu seems to indicate, oh, must be high importance to that person. So when you look on my Instagram, what do you see? Absolutely nothing about what I do professionally. Why is it there? What is there? Me hiking up the Hudson Valley, or me climbing Half Dome out in Yosemite, or almost dying in the desert. Pictures of that are coming up. Almost died in the desert a year and a half ago. I'm glad I made it out, but gosh, read so many stories before my trip about people being found out in the middle of the desert dead. I'm like, wow, it could have been me. Almost was. Yeah. So what you find on my Instagram is that kind of activity. And of course, every September, 9/11 rolls around, and unfortunately, I lost one of my sisters on 9/11. So, those pictures are there as well, because it's an easy way to share out with the extended family. But if you step back and absorb all of what's on my Instagram, really every single thing touches challenge of some sort: physical challenge, exercise challenge, emotional challenge, which of course subtextually links back to exactly what I do professionally. But the whole goal of my Instagram is letting people look behind the curtain, because it is chemistry and confidence that brings the decision to work with someone, even a career coach or someone to reinvent your resume. So think about how you may use your different platforms and what the whole purpose is. Now, this is not brain surgery. I pulled this off of Facebook a couple of years back. I certainly did not invent it, but to put things in perspective, social media, let's think about this. Well, Twitter, I'm eating a donut. That's what Twitter is. Facebook, I like donuts. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to like them. Yeah. Foursquare, who even uses that? That's how things evolve so much these days. So Foursquare, kind of out of the picture, or it could have used to be, this is where I'd eat the donuts, the location place. Instagram, which used to be something very different, it would be a vintage picture of my donut. Sure, maybe. YouTube, well, I'm actually eating a donut right now and you can watch me. LinkedIn, of course, those skills include donut eating. Just don't look at the midsection. Pinterest, well, here's a donut recipe. If anyone really used it for recipes any longer, probably a few do. Last FM, don't know who's listening to that. Social media over time changes very, very quickly. Some rise to the top and some fade away. But it's about influence. It's about influencing other people's ideas of you. So it really comes down to why we're on social media in the first place. Why is this so important? Let me get a drink. All of these things, by the way, I think are important. Look at that second from the bottom there. The proper use of a social media campaign, like I'll teach you today, really it's a secret way or an easy, low friction way to seem like you're in contact with everybody that may know you. So, that you may have no actual contact with these people in the greater network, but suddenly they're absorbing your story, absorbing your value. This is how you stay on top of people's minds, both up the food chain in your own company, at competitor companies with really no real actual day-to-day contact, but they're aware of you and your activity. So really important. Now, in using social media, we really have to start with the discussion over how we set up our profiles. We may be used to setting up a profile on Facebook. We may be thinking about profile on LinkedIn. But whatever platforms you use, you have to think about how you set up a profile. That's not a duplicate of the other platform, but has to work synergistically with the other platform. Maybe it presents you in just a slightly different way than the others. But here again, in going in, we have to solve this like the problem that it is. Well, why are you going to use this platform? Why did you choose it? Well, everyone's using it. Well, everyone's using TikTok too. I'm not there yet, but who knows? Maybe one of these days, very soon. If I think these programs will fit on TikTok, I'll move them right over there, to that platform. What are your goals for using this platform? Great. I want to use a certain platform. Now I have to understand what are the goals for that platform. What are the pitfalls? What are the potential advantages? Are your target markets using that platform? If not, I'm not quite sure why you'd be using the platform. Has to be a purpose to this time investment. Information is the new currency. I talk a lot about this in the LinkedIn lecture, usually more from the extraction standpoint. We can go into LinkedIn, extract a lot of information that can help our job search and career activities. But here I'm really talking about injecting or inserting or planting seeds of information about yourself that shift perception. Now, to do this effectively, you're going to have to become the content guru of you. Oh, I just love John's story. By the way, I grew up Catholic, which means I really do understand modesty and humility. And, I can imagine my younger version of myself would have probably died and curled up in a corner if I realized this is what I'd be doing eventually, because it's just too out there. It's too immodest, too lacking humility. I get it. Modesty and humility, by the way, are really great traits for every aspect of our life, but not job search and not career. These are the two areas you have to give yourself permission to slide a little bit closer to the Kardashian side of the equation. Let's hold back a little bit, but we have to give ourselves permission to step out of our comfort zone. We have to shift the story. Now, if we understand how to sell our content, our story, our background, we have a chance to reframe a lot of what maybe had been presented a different way by other people, maybe reset even the trajectory of our career. No, I wish I could have gone this direction. Well, let's morph ourselves over and change directions. Also, it's an easy way to reclaim your contributions for your current or most recent roles. Maybe your boss didn't really give you the same kind of pat on the back that you might have liked. Well, let's give ourselves a pat on the back publicly and step out of our own ways doing it. Content is king here. And if you have great content, it's going to work really well. What's great content? Can't really tell you, but I can tell you this. There's an easy way to judge it. If people are interacting with your content, if people are looking at your content, that's good content. If people are not looking at your content, don't show interest, that's not very good content. Now, we live in a world, unfortunately, where no one wants to read. And normally in a non-pandemic world, I'm saying that at the New York Public Library 2-3 times a month as I'm giving lectures there. Very distressing. I'm sitting and waiting to be struck by lightning. That is the reality. No one will read these days. You have to make it visual. You can change your reality just in 60 to 90 days. Let me give you a little motivational piece here that should show you why that's true. Now, I have a very close friend, long-term client as well. Years ago, they used to actually work for me or dotted line report to me. They really reported to their sales manager, but dotted line reported to me as a location manager. They were responsible for delivering a significant piece of sales to my location. And, if those sales didn't come in, gosh, we would have had to have some conversation. But of course, they did come in. They're a great salesperson, and we formed a really good relationship. And over time, I've helped them transition over to, helped place them actually in Liberty Media, not Liberty Media, but GTE Internetworking, which became Genuity. Then as a career coach, I've helped them move to Liberty Media, Level 3 Communications, Nokia Siemens Networks, now they're over at Cisco Systems. And, that stuff is all great. But if we backed up a few years when they were over at Nokia Siemens Networks, they were desperately trying to get up to the director level. Got to get there. But I don't get there soon. My timer's going to run out. I'm like, what? We're within a handful of the same age. We're very, very close. I'm like, timer's going to run out. My timer's not running out. What do you mean? We all have a different perception. I just keep my hair nice and short. I keep my shave nice and close. I stay as youthful as possible and energetic. And I don't believe in a time limit. I know there's a time limit, but we don't know what the end date is. So I intend to play the game all the way to the end, wherever that end is. So I'm thinking, well, gosh, I don't think this is your last opportunity, but let's figure out what's happening. Now, my friend had gotten the interviews, absolutely, and came in second place twice. Second place. Well, you have to start with a clear understanding. Do you understand what second place is? A winner. Do you understand what third place is? A winner. You do not come in 1, 2, or 3 unless you are a winner. They just didn't select you. And by the way, you came in second place and you have some chip on your shoulder. You don't even call me back to thank me. What, thank me for not hiring you? Well, I wouldn't phrase it that way. You don't even understand that I liked you best. Oh my gosh, I liked you best. You're the best one. But you know what? I need to hire this one over here because they're a better fit for the team that I already have in place. That's the better match for that team. But oh my gosh, I wish I could have hired you. And you didn't even bother to call them back and they liked you best. So we're going through this second place, and we have to start with, well, who beat you? My friend does technical program management, like $250 million technical rollouts for very big tech companies. And my friend came up on the sales side. Remember years ago, they used to work for me. Come up on the sales side. Oh, very good talker, That's also why clients love this individual. They all love this individual, sing their praises. Over the years, across many brands of companies, has missed countless rounds of layoffs because the clients absolutely love this person. But as we're trying to figure out why are these people beating you, who's beating you? Folks that came up on the technical side before moving into technical program management. And so there's no doubt there's more technical, but the real problem was right here. As we're going through the discussion, I'm reminded of my friend's verbal tick, which is that I'm not technical. I'm not technical. Now, years and years ago, oh my gosh, they're like, I'm not technical. I'm not technical. Show me this copy and paste thing again. I'm like, oh, that's not technical. You know what? They become very, very technical, doing all these big rollouts, clients singing their praises, everything else. Oh, they've certainly become technical. They never stop saying it. I imagine they probably said it hundreds and hundreds of times to everyone around them in their influence circle. I'm not technical. I'm not technical. I'm not technical. And, it really came up in deeper discussion because we were talking about things and they said, I'm getting ready for this internal conference I have to present down in the Carolinas. And I was getting some help from my coworker on PowerPoint. I'm like, what? You were getting help from a coworker on PowerPoint? Let's be clear. There's no simpler piece of software on this earth than PowerPoint. I know that's not fair. Some of those young ones, their brains are wired very differently, having grown up in a different time. But really, there's nothing simpler in this world to operate than PowerPoint. And I am no lover of Microsoft, to say the least. So my first reaction was, oh my gosh, what does that communicate when you're supposed to be a technical guru if you're getting help from someone on PowerPoint? I said, so first off, get yourself over to lynda.com. That's Linda with a Y, by the way. If you're in the New York area, please don't pay for it. Please go to the New York Public Library, get your library card, sign up online so you have your PIN number, get the sheet from the New York Public Library about how you sign into lynda.com, even from home for free. And you can save yourself quite a bit of money on training. I said, go over to lynda.com. You take lots of classes over and over and over on PowerPoint. You never ask someone again for help on that. Again, imagine how many times they said, oh, I'm not technical. I'm not technical. Oh, you know about that person? I'm not technical, not technical. 60 days later, after years of throwing themselves under the bus verbally, 60 days later, they suddenly had their new role. Went from second place, clear choice for the role, into a role they'd never held before, head of processing quality. And of course, that's how they ended up over at Cisco. And the rest remains history. You can change the past very quickly, but we're going to have to get out of our way. And we're going to have to recognize where we've made mistakes in the past. Now, as we brand our career, yes, we're going to start with LinkedIn, but which one's coming next and look at the profile difference. They work together, but also they're a little bit different. So these two, the beauty of it is all the things you see now floating across screen are various shares that I've put out there. I can go to my LinkedIn profile. I can pull up my share list, which I'll teach you how to invent today. I can go copy, paste, share, and have it go to both LinkedIn and Twitter simultaneously, doubling your advertising. If you missed that this is advertising, when you share things about what's going on in your industry, your company, the challenges, or even like I do here, I'm in these because I'm a public speaker. That's all really advertising. That's letting people look over the shoulder to see what's drawing your attention, seeing what you're involved in. Obviously, mine are much more personally focused on me and what I'm delivering as a public speaker. Yours are going to be more focused on the players within your industry, the challenge within your industry, the things going on, and commentary around that. Think of the effect over time as people see this barrage about you commenting in on what's going on in your industry over and over and over. You're the product. This elevates your product. This makes people think of you as an expert in that product. So how do you want to be perceived? What do you do better than everyone else? What makes you a standout, or what will make you a standout if you're not quite a standout yet? Some bad news, by the way. I know it's going to hurt some people's egos. 8, 10, 12, 15 years into the same role certainly does not make you an expert. Oh yeah, you may be an expert at doing it one way. Now, what are the odds that you learn to do it the right way in doing it that one way? I wouldn't want to lay a bet on that. moving around enough, not so much that we look like we can't hold a job, but moving around enough in our career where we can experience different environments and grow from it. That's actually how you become an actual expert. One spot probably says you're averse to risk. You're going to stay a little hidden in the background. That raises some different concerns once we have a lengthy tour at just one employer. Unless we see some nice career progression, nice story, shooting right up the ladder over that time frame. Now, in understanding either why we are or why we might become this standout in our field, we also have to consider another angle today, because this is a market with pandemic that we might be able to completely reinvent ourselves, go a different direction. Adaptability, new ideas, new ways of doing things, new energy is very attractive these days. We've all just been through this 1 year so far, greatest experiment ever, mass experiment ever. And that is like almost a 1 day snap of the fingers to where the bulk of the country, essentially, in certain jobs, working remotely the very next day. And now it's a year later and much of us are still working remotely, and the world did not crash in that way. Most of those businesses still move forward, yet retail ground level businesses, very, very tough during the pandemic, obviously. I live in New York, so yes, we see those retail level businesses are really the ones that will only rebuild once all the population gets back out on the street. So how would you like them to see you? How would you like them to see your value? What qualities do you have? What makes you tick? What drives you? Hopefully share a little bit of your passion. By the way, the what makes you tick and the passion piece and what you love, that could be all about your work life. It could have something to do with your non-work life. So you need to think about all the aspects of you that kind of bring these qualities to the surface. These are the natural qualities that almost anyone would like to hire, no matter what role that they're after. Your job is to use the little changes to not only showcase yourself as this interchangeable, capable, qualified person, but you're not going to get paid anything more if you're just that. And then you're just completely interchangeable. If you don't want it under my terms, well, I'll take the one next to you, or I'll take that one. You have to be that interchangeable. I bring it to the table, but also something different, special, exceptional. You essentially have to step out of line and make sure you can be seen. Then we're going to hit the chessboard and do some very strategic sharing, which can really change the whole equation, just like it did for my friend. Not technical, clear choice for the role. Wow. Let's think about how other people judge us, which is really the same kind of question as what should I share? Because they're going to be judging you by what you share. It's marketing, it's sales. So we're going to have to go back and split some hairs and find all the different ways we could talk about things. Maybe it's projects that we've worked on, or maybe we initiated or developed, all different angles of how we could bend that story just a little bit, or the results, or the level of the accomplishment, or maybe it's continuing education or the original education, or who knows, maybe for the bulk of us, it's really the right mix of articles, books, and events. All of these items here can become part of what you put together for your social media marketing campaign. Then we're going to let this campaign, and we're going to get right down to the detail, but we're going to let this campaign flow across the network. We're just going to put it out into the ether, not really telling it where to go. And we're going to allow the algorithm in the background to make the correct match and put it in front of the right people to get us hired. By the way, that's how LinkedIn makes money as well. Trust the algorithm, but you have to give the algorithm some tools, like a very good built out profile, and then a very nice mix of the right related share content so they can connect all the dots in the algorithm's brain. Now, we also have to make sure that story is equally told in the right way across all of our career materials. There has to be some sort of synergy between not only the resume, the LinkedIn, but also the shares. And you may even be after multiple target employers with multiple target directions. So you're going to have to balance what you share, make sure each one gets the right resume, but also make sure when they arrive at the LinkedIn profile, each person holding a different resume still gets satisfied with what they see on LinkedIn. That does take some artful balancing. If you need some help, I am very, very good at it. Then you have to give yourself permission to open Pandora's box, and we're going to get on this gravy train of our dreams of this endless self-marketing, and it could be across a number of platforms depending on what is right for you. This is not about wasting your daily time. Remember, it's just 2 minutes a day once we show you the plan of what you're going to do. In your voice, in the way you present, in the way you share the ideas, you have to be authentic to yourself. You have to have some integrity. You have to be genuine. Just because I'm shy and introverted, does that mean I have to show you that? Oh, I have to show you I'm shy. I have to show you I'm introverted. Why? That's not what I'm here to sell. You're going to have to give yourself permission to get past certain of our own limitations, because I can be this and still be myself. I don't have to wear the other pieces on my sleeve so it's all out there. This is not a confessional moment. This is a curated moment, just like it is here on camera. Probably likely need to start with a personal inventory. Now, if you've worked on your resume and your LinkedIn profile, I'm guessing you've already done this. If not, be sure to go back and watch my resume renovation lecture. Go back and watch the Building Your Professional Network with LinkedIn and How to Use It for Your Job Search lecture. In that, I talk about doing about a 90-minute personal deep dive inventory. This is the cross-examination, the interrogation, the looking under every rock, under the bed, in the closet. I'm looking everywhere for some piece of my story that I've let fall away, slip away. I've dismissed at some point as probably a little turd up of my jacket type thing. You have to recapture all of that content, because sometimes even that little turd that was up here is the nugget of gold. You just can't see it because you're too emotionally close. So find, locate, rediscover all of these career assets. Probably come up with about 8 or 9 pages once you do this deep dive inventory. Think about all the projects you're involved in. Think about your story. Think about the story as well, whether it's inside or outside the company. A lot of great story that's outside the company we forget to tell. Think about our non-work life events as well and how that may come into the mix. Now with this 8 or 9 pages of the deep dive notes, you have to filter through this all singular lens, which is this one question. Why is it the very best business decision they're going to make today if they choose to hire me? That will help you surface the right valuable components that have to become part of the story. More than likely, of course, going to be focused in these areas, and certainly focused on some sort of effect on performance. Carry it across everything else that you might have out there. That'll help you a lot. Now, not the LinkedIn lecture, but we're going to touch on it. LinkedIn, de facto social networking website for our work life, really just like Facebook, but this one's really for career. But it's a few more things. It's this communications, research, marketing, advertising platform. Of course, business person thinks of LinkedIn that way. You have to think of LinkedIn this way with that career brand you have to manage. Now, here's my numbers from last month. 11,847 direct connections. Public speaker, don't get wound up over that. Not so difficult for me to get new connections. 3 levels out, though, that gives me a pool of better than 21 million people. Better than 21 million. I can see every stitch of information on 21 million people. How can I use that to make my job search life easier? Oh, in so many ways. Be sure to watch all of the lectures in the series. It'll help you. Now, as we social media market our way to the new opportunity, we're going to have to, of course, make sure the LinkedIn profile positions and sells us, make sure we have 500 plus connections. So before we even begin, we look like a mover and shaker and not someone that is too introverted and not really connected to the right people. You have to spice up your LinkedIn profile with the right amount of content that adds visual elements. Yes, many easy ways to do that. Be sure to watch my LinkedIn video right on my selfrecruiter.com website. Gosh, I have a little piece where it's up on TV. Always a lot of fun when you're actually on TV. Now, value in every word will open doors. We're going to have to think about this. Perception's reality. The more valuable you can present yourself, the more doors that will open for you. I don't want you to misrepresent, but it's also not a confessional moment. I do not have to share the dull side of the story. There is no sin of omission here. Remember, grew up Catholic? I know all about negotiating sin. You know, there's no sin of omission here. There's only sin of commission. I can leave out any part of that story I'd like to leave out as long as every single piece that I leave in is true. And again, small changes change that perception. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a social media share plan. This part is remarkably simple, by the way. It involves 2 hours of homework. If you do the 2 hours of homework, you're then good for the next 6 to 8 weeks, where you can invest just 2 minutes per day to have an effective social media share plan. I wake up in the morning, I grab my first cup of coffee, if I do coffee, and then I simply go, oh, copy, paste, share. 15 seconds was that? Second cup of coffee, oh, copy, paste, share. Time for lunch, oh, copy, paste, share. Mid-afternoon coffee, because I'm a coffee hound, copy, paste, share. You know what? Let's squeeze another one before the end of the day, copy, paste, share. 4, 5, 6 shares a day in 2 total minutes if you actually just do the mechanics ahead of time. So mechanics are as simple as this. I'm going to build a list ready to go of 25 or 30 items ready to share. My content is ready. That's going to be a mix in general of articles, books, and events. For articles, I simply go to Google. In this case, I actually do mean Google. Now, I certainly have no special love for Google. I believe their phrase was "don't do evil," and oh well, I'm not going down that road. Not a fan. But in this case, I mean, if we're using DuckDuckGo, you're not going to get as great a search result. Get off of DuckDuckGo, go over to Google for this point, click the news tab, and now put in a few keywords. Put in some players from your industry. Put in some challenges from your industry. Put in your title. You know what you're going to get? You're going to get a list of articles all over the country that somehow talk about your industry, the challenges, the players. And you can then cherry pick those to go, which ones would I like to talk about? I now simply grab the address line. You have the link. I grab the title and put it in quotes. Now I have the title. And if I put it in quotes, the brain can just grab it all at once. And simply in front of it, I put 4, 5, 6 words, my opinion. That simple of a setup. By the way, if something on this list is so special, oh, these 3 are so special, I'd like them to go out on certain days. Fantastic. Grab a calendar, probably your combined calendar so it doesn't get lost. Put those reminders. The rest, I wake up in the morning, grab the first one on the list, copy, paste, share. Wherever I end the day, I come back the next day at the same spot, and I continue down, 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 keep going till when I get to the bottom of the list, like a little gerbil on that little wheel, I simply go round and round. I keep using this list over and over and over again for 6 to 8 weeks nonstop. Statistically, I know what you're thinking. Statistically, no one can see a repeat. No one. It's not going to happen. Just as I say that it's going to happen to someone, well, someone gets struck by lightning every single time. Statistically, they're not going to see that repeat. But what that does is teaches the algorithm about all the right things about you. So it begins to make better and better matches, putting you and your content in front of the right decision makers. Do it like breathing. Then you can focus the rest of your time on the other things in job search that you have to look on. So yeah, go back to all of these things and see, besides the books, articles, or events, are there other things from my background that could be filtered into this mix? You probably are even going to have to change the way you speak about yourself. Oh, I'm not technical. I had to threaten to come down to King of Prussia with my kitchen shears when I kept hearing my friends say it. I'm like, I'm going to come down there. If I hear you say it again, bite down hard. Let's break it. Now, we have to think like a storyteller, although storyteller gets a little bit of a bad rap. We tend to think in terms of people that are making up a story. All I'm talking about here is we could tell a really great story that's still true, or I can tell you the most dull, dry, and it's true because it's so dull. Your job is to tell a rich, wonderful, non-confessional thing that is showcasing your value. Yes, we're going to give ourselves permission to put on some very rose-colored glasses. Still true, but all the negative goes away. It's all gravy. And I'm going to speak to whoever it is, just like I'm talking to a dear old friend I haven't seen in 5 years. All the little bit of the nuances that create an effective, gentle nudge, figuratively coaxing their attention, drawing it to you. I'm going to bring these center stage here. Make myself a little bit smaller here so these can be a little bit bigger. A lot of interesting things here. A bunch of different shares to share with you. Up on the top left, here's the first year I was up at Rainbow Push Wall Street Project. Found myself up on stage right next to the Reverend Jesse Jackson, pinching myself, going, how did these things happen for me? Oh, I can tell you. 6 months before that, I happened to be in one of my lectures at the YMCA. Someone came up after the lecture. It was a resume lecture. Someone came up after the lecture and wanted some words of advice. I gave him some advice and some direction. And then a few months later, I get this call going, hey, thanks for the lectures, by the way. I got my new job. Thank you for your help. And, I'm over at Rainbow Push and I'm in Chicago right now for our national conference. I would love to walk your book into the room. I'm like, what's your address? I'm running out to FedEx right now. I can connect the dots very quickly. I'm like, Literally dropped what I was doing that day, ran out the door to FedEx. I trusted that this would get somewhere into the right hands. And then 4 or 5 months after that, suddenly I'm up on stage with the Reverend Jesse Jackson. 5 career coaches got invited in. Of course, I was the only non-African American and the only male going, how did I get here? Amazing. Now, the good and bad in life happen all at the same time. This was also the week my father was passing away in hospice down in Florida, which means on the weekends I'm back to and fro from Florida to spend time with my dad. And by the way, he was just like so thrilled for me. He's like, oh, how amazing. I don't know how these things happen for you. And all the same week he's passing away, because the good and bad in life happen together. That's why I'm also glad that little picture just to the right of where I am now, I'm glad that picture's so small, because if it were any larger, you'd see how stressed I was. Besides the other things going on, that was a day I had 2.5 hours sleep with it all going on. But you know what? Opportunity's knocking. This is your chance. Oh, I'm having a bad week. Get over it. I understand. Let's move forward. This is your opportunity. Of course, now I've done that conference 4 or 5 times. Top right, same kind of thing. I got invited to the Google Social Media Week keynote. Radio show host calls me up and says, hey, you going to the keynote for Google on Friday? I'm like, absolutely. When is it? 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, oh, lovely. See you there. And you know what? Again, this was Social Media Week, which is in February, my busiest month of the year. It's a struggle to find sleep. Do you think I wanted to go to an 8 o'clock in the morning speech at Google? No. But the radio show host wanted me to go. Of course I wanted to go. And then they didn't show up. Wouldn't you know that's the case? I'm sitting in the audience there listening. I wasn't actually speaking that day. I'm sitting in the audience listening, and suddenly these guys go, the real world is insufficient. And it's like the Liberty Bell going off in my head. I'm like, ding, 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 ding. That's what I've been trying to say all along. If you exist only on paper, you don't really exist. You must exist in the virtual world as well. A couple of the others are some not so uplifting articles, but they're exactly right for what I do as a profession. Think about yours as probably not going to be so much about you, but it's going to be about the players in your field or what's going on. Here I am up at WHCR Voice of Harlem Radio. Always fun, but up there 4 or 5 times. Up top right has nothing to do with what I do professionally, but I was up in Albany at the request of the New York Public Library to represent them, to see if we can get additional library funding. By the way, full disclosure, I don't get funding from the library. That's a straight volunteer gig to get public funding for the public. But what does it say about me? Of course, that's why it's there. Got highlighted in AM New York. That's always fun as well. And then suddenly I broke the record at the New York Public Library for the regularly attended session attendance. Broke that record, which is always fun. A few more hits across various media, everything else. Suddenly I get the call going, you're in Essence Magazine. I thought I was being punked. I'm like, who is this? Who is this? Well, I should go look. and my gosh, it was hard to find, because first off, all the magazine stores had disappeared. And then, of course, Barack was on the cover. But by the way, see the shorter gal right there? She's the gal that got me into the magazine. And she was outside of one of my lectures at the New York Public Library. And she happened to mention, oh, I'm blogging about my job search for the New York Public Library, for Essence Magazine. I'm like, oh, well, you should have my book. I trusted it would find itself in the right place, and it did. It found itself right on the reading list. Of course, that was another career coach talking to her. That's very different. I got my book on the reading list. Learned to open some doors. So Rise TV, another big chance to get some profile, which was a lot of fun. And because of that experience, I'm now interacting with a TV producer that's worked on Geraldo and Early Show and Regis and many others. In our careers, we really have to learn to open the doors and understand how to self-promote, as distasteful as that might be. So here's a few more shares to inspire you. Did a group shot at one of the events that I was doing, so I shared that. Did a nice event at Grace Institute, which I've done many, many times. It's a wonderful organization that helps a lot that need it in the city here. So, of course, I did one of those and shared it. And you can see a little bit more shares. Of course, you can look at all these on my profile as well. Doing my boot camp live, that's about to go online full-time here, but did my boot camp live a couple years ago. Someone captured this shot. WHCR Voice of Harlem Radio. I didn't make it in the shot, but of course my book, my coffee are there, of course. Articles, lots of things that you can do on LinkedIn to raise your profile. let's pull these center stage so I'm less of a distraction while you think about these next few slides. Think about what you're going to present, whether it's something, maybe you just finished a great project and you have to think about what is sellable, not what you want to talk about, but what is sellable. Maybe you've been selected to lead initiatives in digital content development, or maybe you're a member of a divisional cost containment and reduction committee. Well, you're not going to be very popular, but very needed function, of course. Or maybe you're reading Social Media Marketing, An Hour a Day by Dave Evans. What a great book. Or developing new projects, something that shows your skill and depth. Maybe you're attending a lecture series on workforce development, or even a lecture series on social media marketing. You don't have to say it was about job search. Get your credit. That will elevate your brand. Nudge, 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 and push things forward, because small changes change perception. So simple. Sharing accolades, sharing praise, a pat on the back, kudos, whatever we might want to call it. Congrats, Dave. I see you're reading Social Media Marketing, An Hour a Day by Dave Evans. What a great book. Really got me up to speed. Enjoy it. Oh, sure. Giving some praise and spotlight to someone else can cause some reflection back upon yourself if you understand how to do it. Another way to be a standout and be seen as that exceptional person is to be a leader. But you don't have to wait to be a leader. Is there something that needs solving? Is there something that's unresolved? Is there something that no one's paying attention to? Some solution we have to develop? What's being, not being done? One thing I can tell you is I've never allowed myself to be limited by some ridiculous 8.5 by 11 sheet of job description. Are you kidding me? That is simply a starter idea for the role you hired me for. You hired me for my brain, and boy, are you going to get my brain, because that's why I'm here, to do a compelling, interesting job. But really, everything that we do is status updates, articles, every piece of communications becomes part of our brand. We have to think about it all. And that includes our signature block. A lot of people fail to have a signature block. Signature block is really simple. You open up a brand new email. Is your email blank? You don't have a signature block. Really, we have to have a signature block. Now, here's my signature block, ridiculously long. First time I wrote this, I was so horrifically embarrassed. I'm like, oh, what did my mother think? Wow, John, looks like you made it. Yeah, I get it. Very hard. Very difficult to write this out. But you know what? It's all true. I earned it. You have the right to use it. And of course, I've gotten well past those things that hold me back now. Yours may be simpler. It could be something as simple as one of these. At the very minimum, I sure hope it includes your address line to your LinkedIn profile, along with your phone number and your email. What? I have to put my email in my email? Oh, no. For you, I'll hit the special key. I'll toggle, I'll copy just for you. Yes, this is attention to detail. This is a demonstration of how easy it will be to work together. Or are you going to leave out the important information necessary to contact you when you're working? Make sure they are seeing you the way you need to be seen. Make sure you are ready. It's your job to be persuasive. Get this social media campaign out there and understand it can change the equation all about you. And if you want to change industries, change direction, you shift those stories toward the new industry, the new direction, so they suddenly see you, or don't even see you, chameleoning yourself over to the new direction. Thank you guys for joining in today. This is Career Evolution. Really the part 2 to my LinkedIn lecture, Social Media Marketing, Your Way to the Job. Thank you guys for joining in. By the way, if your resume is not really singing your praises, if your LinkedIn profile is not elevating and delivering the value the way it should be, if you are getting interviews and not getting the second interviews or offer, if you're not getting interviews, reach out. I can help you. All my packages are under my services tab, right under Self Recruiter. And if you need to talk before you decide on which one's right for you, just send me a quick email and we'll set up a time. Thank you guys for joining in today, and we'll see you next week. Take care.